Some of the TikTok comments have been like, you shouldn't do that. That induces fear.
There's a force in all of us that science knows nothing about. The force of fear.
Everyone to Induced Fear. It's been a long time since an episode, but we are back. And why not come back with a returning guest, Joshua Heyman, joined with Nick Knight with Stories in the Cemetery. How's it going, guys?
It's going good.
It's going real good, man.
Hopefully I did that right, because like I said, it's been a while.
No worries.
Now, Josh, you were on for... I think I called the episode The Science of Ghost Hunting.
Correct.
And you were still in like the stages of completing this large almanac that you were doing. And since then, you've completed?
I was in the beginning stages of like all of my research and stuff and all of the work I was doing. Nick is actually the creator of the almanac, and I just kind of give my 2 cents.
Sweet. Well, then how was that, Nick? Pulling all that together.
It was a headache trying to get Josh to give me his right article and make sure it was edited properly. That's how it went. So, it was a matter of, I mean, I guess for your listeners who may have listened to, your interview with Josh before, the Paranormal Investigator's Almanac, and I have to say this on every podcast, Josh, I got to bring it up. We are not affiliated with anything called Paranormal Almanac or Paranormal Almanac, just for copyright purposes. But the Almanac was designed so that way other investigators can actually use their, the parameters around them and the metrics like moon phase and weather and dates. And, Josh and I are working on some new studies for the 2026 Almanac. So that way they can plan their investigations better. So the goal was to have a lot of writers and contributors like Josh, and I would focus on the charts. So for the first year and us really putting this together, and it took probably, 4 months, Josh?
Yeah.
To really get it edited.
It got down to the wire. There was a lot of work that went into it really, really fast. So, I mean, for the first year, for us to get 3 writers, for us to get as much going on there as there was, it was an amazing project. And it gives a lot of really cool, insights. Nick did a great job. I mean, the charts, the formatting for everything, the book covers, he did all of the serious work on the almanac.
Well, the book cover, I got to credit the wife on that one, because that's why we keep her around. No worries. She doesn't listen to every interview I'm on. But she's actually already working on the 2026 edition. And this year we have 9 writers, so I can focus on just the charts and some of these newer studies that Josh and I are working on. But yeah, this year's edition, I would say it's going to be at least double in size, just from the amount of writers and the amount of data that we're putting into this, because the charts are just, it's data. That's really what we need to enhance this field. And it's all based off the scoring system. So, Oscar, how much did he explain, the scoring system? Because that's really where this stemmed from.
I think you'll have to refresh my memory. I remember it coming up in conversation, but I don't remember the specifics of it.
Yeah, we focused more on what it was I was doing in the paranormal, as far as paranormal theory, the whole UV light, EMF. We talked a lot more about all of that in the original podcast. So, and I mean, that's grown by leaps and bounds too. And that'll all be in this upcoming year's articles in the Almanac, along with, we have a paranormal celebrity writing an article this year.
Oh, wow. Yeah. When you first told me how much more writers were on board this time, before we had set up this interview, I was like, well, shit, man, this is more work.
Yeah.
This is a lot more work.
Well,
it's commendable. It's commendable work. It's not like you're just putting things out there just for the sake of putting stuff out there. It's gathering more, learning more, and sharing it with everybody.
in vetting these writers that we chose for this year, we wanted to make sure we had, a pretty wide variant of voices to go into it. So it's not just all 9 paranormal investigators, you know what I mean? Like with their own theories. We have a doctor that's writing a page this year. We have a paranormal celebrity. My wife is doing an article because she's in the veterinary field, and she's going to talk about like why the theory of dogs seeing ghosts can be a thing. It's a wide variety of, people talking about things from their field, and they're not all necessarily paranormal investigators or researchers like Josh and I. That's what makes this such a unique project.
Yeah, I think that would make it unique in the sense of it's, again, you're grasping things from people who are kind of viewing it outside of that world. Like, here's a theory on what this could be. Here's a theory on what this could be. It's not everybody kind of saying the same thing. It's not like you said, it's different voices speaking on this. So that definitely makes it a lot more unique than what you would see from just, whether it be, let's say it's a TV show and it's the same investigators going about it, and it's just been their one style throughout the whole thing, and nothing has really changed. This is showing growth and change as years go on.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it's funny to think because this all stemmed, like Nick said, from the SITC scoring system, his paranormal investigator workbooks. And I've gotten really used to the system now, and all the investigations I do are scored in the system. I did a investigation with Creepy Crawly Co., and they're a couple paranormal investigator team, and we scored their investigation, that I did alongside them. And it really, it shows people like not only what it is that you're doing, it shows them what you may have forgotten. Like I at the end of everything, I scored it out, and I told them like, hey, we forgot to do any kind of EVP work, because I got nothing here. The page is blank, and it's really cool. It's a really, really great system to utilize, and I'm looking forward to the way the book's going to look next year, because there's me doing it on top of Nick doing it, and more people getting involved in the system and starting to utilize it. There's a lot of notes coming back, and there's going to be a shit ton of improvement and just things to get added in. Like, we're able to come at it from... Yeah, there's so many more tweaks to get to come out of this, and the system gets to grow and continue to evolve, and now we're going to be doing, like we were saying, we're doing watch party episodes where we're grading your favorite paranormal investigators with the system. So
that's sweet.
It's evolving into so much more, and it's crazy to think like that one book that Nick wrote has now turned into all of these awesome projects, and it's just really starting to sweep through. Like, people are starting to take notice.
It wasn't even intended to be a book. This stemmed from, I give ghost hunting tours in Charleston, and people were asking me, like, how haunted was this? And I didn't have an answer. So I just came up with a way so I would have an answer for them. It took me months to develop, but then, I came up with the idea of, like, maybe other investigators might find this useful if they knew how haunted their investigations were based off of how much time they spent and what they were capturing, and just kind of developed the system year over year. We've got the 3rd workbook out now. Obviously 2026 will be year 4 for the, basically the SITC scoring system. And I think, Josh, we're going to have to just rename it from Paranormal Investigation Workbook to the SITC scoring system.
Yeah.
So here, you've heard it here first, folks. Like, we're collaborating, as Josh and I do, just coming up with new shit on the fly.
Oh, always.
Well, Nick, can you give a breakdown of how this scoring system works when it comes to a particular investigation?
Yeah, I sure can. So every night, because I do these tours on a nightly basis, the scores are based off of weights and measures of how much is the piece of evidence actually worth, whether that be an EMF spike, a piece of communication coming from Spirit Box, a direct EVP, video footage. Everything has its own weight, and in the workbook it breaks it down literally piece by piece. It looks like Josh is going to show off the 2024 version, so but with that, you add up all the scores at the end to see with all the weights and measures, and then you have multipliers and dividers. Josh, it's upside down. Love you, man. I love you like a brother. I do. Hysterical. But you take the multipliers and dividers because it is based off of a 2.5 hour, type of system. So if you went longer than that, then you're going to have to divide your score. And Josh found that out the hard way, through the first time he used it, where he was like, oh, I had a great score. And then he's like, oh shit, I got to divide that by 2. So it still put him in the average amount of activity for a place to be deemed haunted. But I got sick and tired, and Oscar, I'm sure you hear this all the time, of the most haunted asylum or the most haunted whatever.
Yep.
There's no such thing.
It's everything.
Not until now, with there's the scoring system, being able to tell each investigator, as long as they're honest with themselves and to the investigation, that hey, if we got a repeat of this average to above average score at this one location, it might just be the most haunted location. So, to Josh's point about getting other people involved and other teams to use the system to send me their worksheets, we're thinking about doing awards, like the most haunted asylum came from, and we kind of, because they sent us their sheets. So this will evolve into a pretty wide-based international, and it's already hit the international waters. There's some teams overseas that are using it. It was recognized by the Psychical Research Society over in the UK. So I mean, it's becoming quite the thing that I wasn't expecting, to be quite honest with you. It's just a matter of, like Josh said, for us to be able to look at our investigations and say, how haunted was this? And you might think you have a great night or a good night, and it turns out it was actually kind of a shitty night.
Yeah. No, I think that I wish I had it when I did my investigations out here. Just because I think I went into those with more of the level-headedness of like, I don't think anything's gonna happen, and then you get surprised by certain things that go on.
Right.
It was like, and going with like a scoring system, it would be, well, do I count this, and do I count this thing that happened, or do I disregard this thing that happened?
And the system really makes that pretty cut and dry. If you got Ghost Adventures using the system, there's no section for I think I was possessed. There's no section for it's got to be a demon. It's pretty cut and dry. You got an EVP. It was a clean EVP. You can understand what it's saying. You get a point. You got an SLS that you can't debunk. It lasted X amount of seconds. This is your point score. Like, it really does cut and dry stuff and make it easy for it to be like, okay, well, as long as you did your debunk work and you did your base sweeps and made sure you don't have like power lines running outside of the jail you're investigating, Ghost Adventures, then like, oh, well, this EVP hit was a good spike. Like it meant something. There was something there, and you get your point. It's not like, well, it was a direct answer, or I really think the spirit was really trying hard this time. No, you get 1 point because it was one spike. Like, it really breaks it down and makes it simple so everybody can use it properly.
Yeah, and it's not like you guys are saying to people like, you're not getting anything. It's not like you're disregarding what people are sharing or putting out. It's just like, well, take into consideration this and take into consideration that, and
Always.
Yeah, that's good. It's like it's putting a realistic spin into it, which like you don't really get, especially nowadays when everything is on either TikTok, Instagram Reels. Like when people post, I don't know if you guys remember when there was the SLS like app that people could put on their phone, and everything, every video that popped up was somebody seeing a spirit in their home, and it was just like definite proof, definite proof, definite proof, all over
they're all
the place.
using high sensitivity. They're all using their cell phones. They're all like, oh my God, my shadow, it's a spirit. My armchair, it's my armchair. The lamp.
Yeah, I would always have to, I always didn't want to be like, I don't know, come off as what deemed a hater, in the sense of like, come on, you can see,
And Josh and I
you can see that it's
have actually come up with.
We comment on that all the time.
Yeah, we've made a lot of like how-to videos and like quick tip videos on like how to set these devices up. So I mean, we both do like paranormal equipment tips. I believe I've touched on that Ghost Tube SLS camera at least twice in my TikTok videos about the sensitivity of it, how to, it's not your armchair, and even some like how to review the video, like the footage from it, to verify that you actually have something. And because I'll be honest, I use it on my tours here in Charleston, but I only bring it out if I have my maximum amount of people with all tickets sold out for that night, because we use it mainly for debunking. So to your
Yeah,
point, I
and
mean,
the
we
difference
turn
is
its
you can
sensitivity
explain it.
down.
Yeah.
Right.
You,
But the
so
tour is
it's a
honest.
whole different.
I had just
Yeah.
had some guests tonight that couldn't believe how honest I was with them throughout the entire night. And I still think they had a below average night. And I tell them that before we leave, like before we part ways, that, hey, man, I just think this, we had a couple of good hits, but I still think we're going to fall in a below average score. Hopefully you had fun playing with my gadgets, and I'll expect your review on Google. So that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah. So
I always appreciate honesty above all, especially when it comes to doing things in this field, because it's so easy. It's like beyond easy to say, this is the most haunted location. This is the most haunted of this. That's a catch-all for every single place that people say is haunted.
Yeah.
So,
So I mean, we mentioned it just prior to starting this. Like my last paranormal scavenger hunt, the events I do out in California, I had 4 paranormal investigators. Like they were all ghost hunters on different teams, and mind you, they came out as an invite from a prior event we all did together. Just to have fun with the event, but I provided all the equipment, and like they all learned something on the investigation, because I talked about the system, I talked about the studies we're doing, it's everybody learns something from this stuff. Like and we learn every day. Nick and I are constantly challenging each other. So it's like the Almanac, the system itself, like they continually evolve, not just because of other people's input, but because we keep going back and forth with our experiences on it all. And it's
ever
cool.
changing.
Yeah. And I mean, everybody left that night and they're like, wow. And they're like, this was really, really cool. And it's like, these are investigators that use all of this equipment. They knew, like, the whole part where I usually teach, and I use Nick's word, the muggles, how to use their pieces of equipment. I got to skip that entire section of my normal event.
I love those nights. Yeah, I do.
They're
so
all
great.
paranormal investigators. So I'm like, okay, so your camera, he's like, yeah, I'm recording, we're good. I'm like, you're in IR? He's like, yeah. I'm like, this is great. Like, this is wonderful.
Yeah, those would be great. Anytime that I did mine, it was my first investigation was just with me and my fiance. So she knew nothing. She was actually scared going into it, but she was like, you're not going into this basement alone. And then the next time it was again with her, and then her sister and her sister's boyfriend, and he was just like the videographer, like just, I said, you can just record, just tag along and record. And it's so funny when it's somebody's first time doing anything, because the moment they hear anything, it's an oh my gosh moment.
Yeah. That's what.
Where they think they hear their name. I love when they think they hear their name, because that sends them more into like this panic of like, why?
Which is why I love the spirit box, because you can actually go back through and actually listen to what's been recorded without this mangle of wires and recorders. Like, I love that thing.
Yeah, I ended up getting one of those. Just so that I can do that.
Staple.
Yeah, because you get those people, you really do, and it's like everything is their name. Everything is important to, it's like, oh my God, did you hear? They talked to me.
Yeah. Yeah, mind you, we did end up having things happen, and it was funny because it was a location that the Ghost Adventures crew went to. So beforehand, I asked the woman, I go, how were they? And she was like, well, this was very early on, so they were very nice. This was it's like,
nice.
But she did say that they shut down the whole town. Like the whole town had been shut down. Because it was it's a small strip of like an old casino town in the mountains of Colorado, and we had done this investigation within it was like 99, 98 years, so almost 100-year-old like jailhouse that was converted into a museum. And you can tell this woman had allowed people to come and do investigations, especially after the Ghost Adventures crew had come in, because she knew terms of like trigger objects and things like that. Yeah, exactly. She was like, we also have our own EMF detectors if you would like to use them. I was like, no thanks, brought my own.
Right?
Oh, it just sounds like it's turning into one of those paranormal tours where they
Yep.
talk around
Yeah.
or talk at every location. They're like, well, for $14.95 extra, you can have this K2 meter.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like throwing in a bunch of things, and I was like, no, it's okay. It's okay. We're just going to be here to do the thing, and then we'll be out of your hair. We won't shut down the whole town here. Plus, I don't have that kind of money.
Well, here in Charleston, like we know when there's, either filming going on because this is a heavily movie film area, or like when one of the ghost teams from TV is here, just because I usually get an email at Ghost Adventures, whoever's here is going to shut down a few blocks. They all go to the same damn places. Like they're not doing anything extra. But yeah, I completely understand when they, shut everything down. I actually got kicked out of one of my haunted spaces. What was that, 2 weeks ago, Josh? Because they were
Yeah.
filming Outer Banks. Like,
Oh, really?
it's a heavily filmed place. You just gotta. I had to just reroute my shit. I'm like, all right, we can't go there. There's a bunch of cameras everywhere. You'll see that on season 5, episode 3 of Outer Banks. See me walking in the background trying to get my wall of fame over here.
Holding up the book as you walk by.
Repping the shirt, just be like,
Yeah.
Who's the bearded guy in the vest in the background?
Just see
He
Nick.
won't stop waving at us.
Well, Nick, I had asked Josh when he first came on, and I would like to ask you the same. What was your origin story into this world? What was the first thing that pulled you in to the paranormal?
I guess not being able to talk about it, as a kid, growing up in a religious home, which I'm sure is a very common story that you hear. So just getting, released into the wild as an 18-year-old. No, I'm not Amish. No, I'm not any of those other. I'm just kind of saying I was like free. Like you leave the home and there it is. It's all there. And, just for the taking. I just started researching, and then I started reading books about the afterlife, fiction, just based off of, some very poor research things at the age of 19. And it just kind of evolved. And then as far as moving to South Carolina, I met a psychic, and he impressed me, which is hard to do. So I was going to write a book about him. And his name's Carl Ray, and he's actually one of the writers from this year's and next year's Almanac. But he and I were doing investigations with no equipment, because it really wasn't about like ghost hunting and paranormal investigating. It was more about psychic ability. And then the book kind of flopped. Like it didn't go anywhere. So I just turned it into a blog and podcast just to get it out into the world. And it did okay. Somebody heard it and listened to it and, offered me a job in the tourism industry. And I was already doing like some investigating on the side, just, little funsy K2 and SB7 stuff with my daughter. And it just kind of evolved to where like I do this 200 times a year now, and I get to study all the data. So, Josh, I hate to tout my own horn, but he calls me the paranormal guru because I can give you the stats on all of the equipment.
Yeah.
Based off of how active is it going to be, how accurate is it going to be, and what to expect out of it in conjunction with another piece of equipment. Just because I play around with like, oh, we're going to use these 4 pieces tonight instead of those 4, and kind of look at like, how do they interact with one another? Does this ghost react better? Because I visit the same spaces. I change it up, about every 6 months, but for the most part, like it's a staple route. I've been visiting, I would say about half of my locations for 5 to 6 years. I've built a relationship with these people. So it's really just kind of evolved into that. And obviously all the projects that we've mentioned, before about the SITSI scoring system and the almanacs. And I'm still writing fiction books, but this nonfiction projects of the almanac and workbook have really kind of taken over all of my writing skill, because I'm still writing reports for my customers every night, because they get a report every night from their tour. So like even after we're done
Plus,
recording,
this is
I got to go through all their media.
Yeah. Plus, it's something that's close to you. It's something that you enjoy to dive into. You enjoy being in this world, to be able to ask those questions. The tagline for this show is ask questions and face your fears. So it's like, ask those questions, step into that world, and see what you get. Basically.
Right.
Yeah. And honestly, some of the fears in all of this is asking the questions and disproving your own data, coming to that conclusion,
Right.
using things properly. And that's why I love the fact that Nick knows the percentages, because I can't tell you how many investigators go into things nervous. I'm using this, the Seer app, and I don't know how accurate it is. Is every image going to mean something? I don't know. Well, Nick has a number to correlate to that. So, and that's probably something he's going to have to end up putting into the workbooks, because it's just one more thing that's like, how accurate is this? Well, X amount of investigations done and tested. This is how accurate your Seer app is. This is how accurate, the Ghost Tube app is. Like, it gives people a number to go off of so that they know, like, you know what? I really got to look at this. I got to take some time, make sure I debunk it properly, because it's only 60% accurate or 40% accurate. It's great that somebody out there takes the time to make the numbers, because I know the hell I won't do it.
Well, just so everybody knows, the Seer app is 45% accurate, and the GhostTube SLS app is about 12% accurate when it's set up properly.
Yeah, that's a key thing. Well, for a lot of equipment, it would be when it's set up properly. Because even when it comes down to like a REM pod, you have to know
the settings,
things that trigger that. And people see that as just like, oh, you just turn it on and that's it.
Yeah. Not a lot of people understand where it came from or what it is exactly. Like, most people don't realize that the REM pod is basically the game operation. Like, it's pretty much the same sensors. It's a proximity sensor. That's all it is. It's like an EMF proximity sensor. So you're playing operation with this thing that looks real fancy.
Yeah, which makes sense for the fact that when people put their hands really close to it, it kind of goes wild.
Yeah.
What's funny is I don't have percentages for REM pods because we don't use them on the tour. They're pointless outside. So it's just the one device. Like, I mean, I have the millimeter with the REM built in, and we were using it for, I don't know, we'll just say 6 months to a year of the first year I did this. And we realized it just gave way too many false positives because we're walking around with it. So if you jostle it, it's going to go off. It's going to give you, that, and I was even setting the sensitivity like really close to the antenna. Like, something would have to be pretty much damn near touching the antenna. We've done some tests for like color schemes for one particular ghost because it used to be active. I'm not allowed in that space anymore because we've been kicked out of there. We won't talk about that on the show. But this particular ghost had red hair, and she's pretty famous. So we would ask her, can you tell us what color your hair was? Like, trying to wait for a spirit box or something to give us those answers. We will get a red on that REM pod every time. Every time we asked. Okay. And it happened like 7 times in one night, like at sporadic times, different parts of the space. Like, you can't deny answers like that because she couldn't find the word red in the frequencies to tell us, but she could show us. So I was good with that. Like, that was pretty solid stuff. But other than that, REM pods on a tour outdoors, useless. I see other paranormal tours that have equipment and they have REM pods set up on stairs of buildings or whatever. You get one little waft of a breeze that has dust in it with little particles in it. It's going to make it go off every time. So we just stopped using them altogether.
Yeah, that's how it was when I had did the investigation at the prison. We went into a space that was the basement, already increasingly cold in that basement. And obviously it's going to be dusty down there because I think there was exposed flooring down there. So we had set it down. And it was just beeping, and I know one of the sensors is for a change within like the temperature there, and it's like a blue light. I haven't used it in a while, but there's a little blue light that kind of will go off on it. And it was just kind of maybe.
It has the little yellow thing with the prong.
Yeah, it has that, but there's a small blue light. If I show you, I'll have to send you guys it, if anything. But it's going off, and I'm thinking it's just the temperature down there, the fact that it's dirty down there. And I'm just saying, okay, well, if you want us to go, we will go. Maybe. Yeah. And I'm like, we'll go. It's fine. I'm thinking it's nothing at this point. I'm like, we're just going to leave. As I say, we're just going to leave. Then the spirit box that we have going off a voice comes through saying, stay here at the same time where I'm saying, I'm going to leave. And then the thing stops beeping. So I was like, all right, I don't know if I can put these things together or if this is just a crazy coincidence that happened right now. Just because, like we had said, dust, anything around there can set that off. But I just put the fact that a voice came through saying, stay here in the same, like, kind of tone of voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, taking
So
things at
it's like-
face value is never a good idea.
Yeah.
You know, just taking like that REM going off by itself could be a coincidence of dust, you know, all of the things, but getting that extra voice with a stay here, I would probably count that. I would probably throw 2 points at that just because they almost kind of confirm each other at that point. But it just depends on, I mean, I wasn't in there in that, I call them RTMs, like real time moments, you know, because it's not something you can verify. It's not that name, noun, or number where you can look it up and say, oh, this was definitely this ghost telling me about this day of who he married and whatever else he wanted to talk about that day. It was an RTM because it dealt with you. So Josh, I've really been evolving this RTM theory. I've been using it a lot on the tour. The guests appreciate it because if they do hear their name, I'm like, okay, then who'd you bring with you? You know, did you bring a ghost? I'm not asking you to answer the question. I would just want you to think about it because if great-great-grandpa Joe is here, his name's probably going to show up later on. So I just kind of, I don't want to say feed them like that theory of like, hey, you're not always just hearing the ghost from the space. Sometimes you got some people following you around, and that's okay.
Yeah, they're not like trapped to a certain degree in one location to where it's like, if somebody's connected to you, that spirit will be connected to you. In a sense of like just coming by and visiting every once in a while. It's not they're only going to visit you at home. Yeah. So it does make sense in that.
Man. I like the RTM. I like the abbreviation. But you know, it makes a lot of sense. And like what Nick said, like the correlation. I think that's probably the best parts of an investigation is when you have things correlating and it's all coming through perfectly. The investigation the other night, we had the Ghost Hunters Tools app that generates words said save her. Then we had we had dual Estes running, and they both said words that came up related to the same ghost that I had been talking about and telling the story of. We were doing dual Estes in the site of where the spirit would have actually like landed during her time alive, because it was jumping from a bridge. And we got the number 3. We got save her on the app, and they said it under Estes, and it all correlated perfectly to a spirit by the name of Myrtle Ward, who has all been known to be looking for her 3-year-old that she threw over but survived.
Yeah,
so the correlation was insane. But it's a bunch of different devices all coming up with the same 2 different spirit boxes, the word generator, like everything working together in tandem within seconds of each other.
Mm-hmm. Hey, one of those tonight.
I've only had a couple moments. I've only had a couple moments where it was where I was able to really like take notice and tie the things together. Because sometimes, especially when you're like people, sometimes when they watch TV, they think investigation is like things happening like that. But sometimes you are just sitting there.
Oh yeah,
you were just sitting there waiting.
I have to say,
so sometimes your brain kind of goes down and you're like start to like get tired and lose that focus of paying attention to everything.
Oh yeah, I've totally fallen asleep in the middle of investigations. There's definitely those moments where you're just like,
Yep.
But I'm gonna have to say, Nick, we're gonna have to look into the whole Black Moon thing.
Okay.
The 2 days back to back, it says it's an every 3 months occurrence. Where you have 2 days in a row where it's 0% chance of moon UV. So I can't base it off that one investigation, but that was really, really active. I haven't had a chance to score it yet, but from everything that happened, I expect it to be a really high score.
Get me the score.
I remember.
We'll see how it goes.
I remember when you brought up the moon, the way the moon will affect an investigation from our last talk.
Yeah.
So what is that? How has that progression been going forward?
So Nick is still running the moon study. He still records it. And now that I'm, giving information as well, every time I do an investigation, I record the moon study. So I give him the percentage of moon, and then I gave him the math for calculating what the UV off the moon is for that night. Because that's down to the basis of like what it is we think is causing the issue with why the ghosts don't want to hang out. Like they don't want to be outside. And it's because UV light is harmful. And what they're being exposed to is UVB. So there's 3 types of UV light: UVA, B, and C. UVC light is the most detrimental, and that's most detrimental to us, most detrimental to them. But it's the shortest wavelength, and it doesn't make it through the ozone. So the only thing coming down and actually interacting with us, giving us the sunburns and causing issues for the spirits themselves, is UVB, which causes this horrible reaction, chemical reaction in air molecules that then causes this violent process of ripping electrons and ends up causing ionization as a third tier of the process. And basically what's happening is we're just pulling the plug. We're pulling the batteries. So I'm currently working on trying to figure out where that UV starts to become that harmful, if there's a certain amount of UV that has to be present for that to happen, or if it's just UV in general being present. But Nick's moon phase theory has really, in my mind, proven a lot of what I'm talking about, because the fuller the moon is, the less activity you're capable of having. And it shows in his results, it shows in his studies, and it shows in the charts in the Almanac.
Yeah, I think I even asked some investigators that I did end up having on the show, and then even other investigators that I just talk with every once in a while. After that first initial talk, I was like, hey, do you notice a difference between there being like a full moon, whether the moon is, out that day, covered that day, if there's like just that sliver of the moon in the sky? Like, I was asking them, and they were like, you know what? I don't think I've taken notice of that, but like, yeah, on a full moon, people usually think that it's going to be more active, and it's sometimes not as active.
It's never more active than a new moon.
Yeah.
Never. Yeah. I've got, 3 years worth of data at this point to prove that the higher the moon percentage that we can actually see closer to a full moon actually deteriorates the score. Like, it's wild to really look at, and that's how the SITC score, that was another main reason why I wanted to develop it, was so we can see, the different moon phases and what's the most active. And I've also been studying the perigee and apogee orbit of the moon to see is it a matter of proximity to the Earth, or is it the amount that we can actually see versus the UV bouncing off of it that Josh is studying. So the top of these reports that I'm handing to these customers of mine, I mean, it's just chock full of freaking numbers. That I'm basically just collecting and collecting and collecting. And once we get it into the charts, we'll be able to see for Josh, like what that UV ratio is and what that number looks like. So I haven't crunched any numbers, nor have I, put them into the charts yet to start organizing it to see like how true his theory is. Because I'm also testing another theory right now on top of that with these sound frequencies to see if that's having an effect on any of our investigations at all. So I don't want to say like my moon phase study is done, but that part's easy. Like there's like 5 things that I record immediately before I even go out. And I've been running a 19 hertz infrasound frequency and pumping it into my haunted spaces as we investigate. And Josh, I'm sure you've noticed some of the TikTok comments have been like, you shouldn't do that. That induces fear.
Right.
And you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. No, no offense there, Oscar, against the name of the show.
I was like,
it's the fear frequency.
But it was like, we're getting like blamed for trying to provoke fear into my guests. And here's the funny thing. I don't tell them it's running until the end of the night, nor do I tell them that it's meant to create the anxiety, the tension, the fear.
Yeah.
And not one of them at the end of a 2.5-hour session with me has been like, I'm terrified. I feel nervous. I feel anxious. I might be sick. Like, I'm not hearing any of that shit. Granted, it's very subtle. Like, you literally have to put your ear to the speaker. It's an infrasound. So, I mean, it's just hanging out on the side of my backpack that holds all the equipment, and it's just pumping that frequency. I'm just changing the airwaves, in the haunted space, and seeing if it's going to change the scores. So I'm going to have some data to be able to compare it to versus non-frequency nights versus frequency nights, and we're going to see if this actually works. And if not, we're going to move down to the next lower hertz. That's simple as that.
See how do you see a difference in the way that it affects people during the investigations? Like, I know there are some people who
Not
are
at
a
all.
lot more sensitive to EMF. Okay, because I know they're like,
So
anytime we go into an area with my fiance and there's high EMF, she's very, very, very sensitive
She's
to
EMF
that.
sensitive.
Yeah,
It's an
very
actual
sensitive. As
condition.
soon as we step in, yeah. So whenever we go into an investigation and immediately I can see that something's affecting her, I was like, all right, the EMF is already high within this. She's one of the tools that I use during investigation
nice.
to kind of test that. So I
I
was just
have
wondering
had
in
guests
that
that have
aspect when it
been
came to sound.
that EMF frequency where they're sensitive to EMF like that, but this is sound frequency.
Yeah.
So, what's funny is I actually had an auditory engineer on my tour this past week, where she actually works with different frequencies to see some of her patients' behavior. So I told her what I was doing. This was like mid tour, and she's like, "You're using 19 hertz?" She's like, "That's an infrasound. Like that's exactly why I'm using it." I was like, "So, A, you're kind of in the dark about it," and she's like, can we even hear that?" I'm like, I gave her the speaker. I was like, it's more like a vibration, more so than anything. And she agreed. And she's like, this is actually a very interesting experiment that you're running. She's like, have you seen any results yet? And I'm like, I haven't. I was like, because I haven't studied the charts and the data yet. I was like, I wait till I have at least 30 days worth of data, and kind of take it from there. So it should be interesting. I'm probably going to put the study inside the 2026 Almanac, whether it's successful or not, because one day somebody else is going to wonder, and hopefully come across the almanac and it helped them to not do the experiment if it was unsuccessful.
Yep, that's what I mean. I was gonna say, as long as it's like, it shows that it was done, and that if there is anything gained from it, then it continues to go forward. And if not,
Right.
like, it's all about taking these things, learning how these things are working, and then going forward. And if you have to adjust certain things, you adjust as you go. I mean, I've noticed from the way you guys are talking about things now is I can notice some of the differences from when me and Josh initially talked. And
Yeah, it's
I
definitely
would say that's
evolved.
not that long ago.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of evolution within that just from not that long ago of a talk.
Yeah. Oh, we're doing so much work with it. I mean, it's an everyday process right now for us. Like, we're putting work into this as much as we possibly can because we want to push this field farther and become an actual science, and it's like Nick was saying earlier, people are getting mad at him. Oh, well, that's the fear sound. That's fear frequency. They've done studies. Like, it's not that bad. It's like 1 in 1,000 people is horribly sensitive to the fear frequency. And they used to use it in old school horror movies. So it's not like you haven't been, given this sound without your knowledge before.
Consent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not anything new, and it's the same thing with like I've gotten people, oh well, I investigated during a full moon and I had activity. I didn't say you weren't going to have no activity. And not to mention, it also matters on, were you inside? So last
Right.
time I checked, UV ray doesn't go through walls. So it all comes down to the details, and people attack things without knowing the details.
Yeah, but
Because
Josh,
that's
we get a
that's
lot
the
of
problem.
commemoration too.
The problem is that like a lot of people are so-called experts, especially when it comes to people who gain any semblance of following when it comes to TikTok videos or anything like that. They allow themselves to think they are the expert when it comes to things, and it's like, I've had people say, well, ghosts don't do that, so I don't know what you experienced. And I was like, you know exactly what ghosts do, you know exactly what they do. So it's that's what I say when I appreciate what you guys do, because it's like, you guys will put a theory out there, work the theory, and if something changes and you're like, well, we're right in that aspect of the theory, but this popped up and now we have this to work on. Yeah, you guys aren't saying, well,
And
now we know
that's-
for a fact
Yeah.
this works.
Well, the beauty of this is none of us are experts. I joked
Yeah.
around with the title Paranormal Guru earlier, and that's only because I get to play with all this stuff and really like tweak it to see like, oh, does somebody forget to hit the reset button on this millimeter every time they're going to use it? I mean, like, that's the reason why Josh calls me the guru, only because I know where the damn buttons are, not because I have every answer of what the ghost is going to do or what the space is, or if the 22% waning crescent moon is really what the night is that everybody needs to go ghost hunting. Like, I don't know those answers, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. Josh and I are out here, literally texting, emailing, calling each other every damn day about either something new or some kind of result that we're like, huh, maybe this is something we should be looking at, and kind of twisting it that way. I just have the golden opportunity to do it because I'm out in the field, literally investigating 5 out of 7 nights a week average. So why not put some things to the test and just instead of just giving ghost tours with K2 meters? So let's do something with this data and see what the hell where it's going to actually take us. It might not be the answer, but at least somebody's doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we need people out there that are taking things and giving it at face value. Nick takes people out on the streets and he tells them it's not scary. This isn't, nobody's going to get attacked or possessed. And my tour is one solid location, and we go through the location and we are in the dark. We stop at certain sections, like we're not on the streets, and I get the same effect, and I probably get more people than Nick does at this point that come and I'm afraid. This is scary, and like 75% through the tour, I'm like, okay, so anybody possessed? Everybody okay? Like nobody's lost a
I
finger.
should use
Like
that line. That's pretty good.
it's like, hey, everybody's good, right? Like it's not scary, right? Nobody's levitated. And everybody always laughs because it's like, it's not what you think. It's not TV. It's not, I didn't get possessed every episode of the show. I didn't hit on a succubus, incubus, whatever it was. Like we got to take things and really start to act like what we're doing is investigating people that were once here living. And people forget to do that. And it's a constant thing, because they're dead. It's a ghost. It's a demon. It's a spirit. It's an elemental. It's a non-living entity attacking you. We got to remember that these were people, and I'm not saying to give them a ride home or something, but we got to remember who we're talking to. So, and it's more people that get out there and do this, the more we get to take that away and start to actually treat this properly instead of it being the scary shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, no, the show's called Induced Fear, guys. You have to keep it scary. Tell everybody it's terrifying.
Hey, it depends on your experience. I can honestly say that, and I think I told you on the first time we did this, doesn't mean I haven't been afraid. Doesn't mean I haven't had things happen that I was like, damn, that was freaky, but it's our perceptions of things, it's the fact that we're dealing with things that we don't know, we can't see, we can't, interact directly with. I can't stop and say, hey, Doug, you really freaked me out there.
Yeah, I think initially one of the stories you shared was one of them where you were running to a specific location and something was pacing alongside of you.
Yeah.
As you were running along. But yeah, those moments come and go, but like that's the point of it, is to kind of not turn away from it and be scared. Or like Nick said, when he was younger, it was growing up in this household that was like, all right, we don't talk about those things. We're not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Like my mom would always say, that's devil stuff. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
So now it's to a point where it's like, oh, once you have stepped out and you went out into that world, you're like, all right, now there are a lot of people talking about this stuff. There are a lot of stories. There are all of these things that you can now ask questions about and really, I mean, not get 100% the answer, but you piece the things together to get a better understanding, and then just go and ask more questions after that, because that's all it's ever going to be, is more questions on top of more questions on how things are working in a world we're not in.
Honestly, that's my biggest fear, is not knowing. Before I leave this earth, I want a few damn answers of what the hell I'm walking into when I leave. That's the fear, is the lack of knowledge that we haven't been able to figure anything out. And whether it's my study or somebody else's study, I just want some answers. Like, what's actually going on over there? How did they get there? Let's take the religion piece out of this and let's really look at this as, how did that happen? Like, what's the science behind it, and what does that look like? Why don't we have the technology yet to be able to measure those things?
Yeah. And I mean, even when it comes down to religious aspects of the world, there are some people who are like, you don't talk about it, you don't do it, but it's like in reality that is a spiritual world, you know. And I think there are even things in the Bible where they talk about calling the spirit forward and the spirit saying, what are you doing? You know, like, why are you bringing me forward? Like, what are you doing?
Right.
Why are you doing this? So it's like, you can't just ignore those things. Even people who hold a religious value with them, people who don't, it's like, you have to know, you can see a lot of people have had weird things happen. You know, there is something there, you know, there's a whole other world that is there to understand, or to try to understand at the very least, you know.
I'm here to
'Cause I
tell
think
you,
there,
just based off the gen pop that I see on a regular basis. I mean, 98%, even the skeptics that come to see me because they're the dragged husband, they have a curiosity as well. Like,
Yeah.
I don't give a damn what they say.
Yeah.
They have a story somewhere. Like, something happened to
Yeah.
them. They had an odd occurrence, a paranormal event, whatever it is. Even the skeptics out there that are trying to debunk all of, people like Josh and I, uh, they have a story too. They just don't have enough evidence yet to continue moving on with it, to say this is actually something. Or it's easier for them to, well, that was the wind, or that was, somebody humming, or whatever the case was, whatever they come up with. They very well might be right, but we're never going to be that 100% sure. And I think that's my biggest fear, dude. Like, you want to talk about a fear of lack of knowledge? Like, I can read up on any topic I want to right now and learn everything I can, but this. That's the problem. Why?
Yeah, especially in a world where people will say, well, science says that these things don't exist, and it's like, does it really though? Does the
Yeah.
science say it doesn't exist? Because if we're going off of science, much like the work that you guys do, that science would say otherwise. So what science are you talking about that says
Yeah.
it doesn't
Right.
100% exist?
Yeah, and that's honestly, a lot of what I've been doing the last few months is really digging into it, and I think at this point I have a considerable amount of data that can possibly help me prove that the soul is made of EMF. Because if you have a haunted space or a haunted item, it more than likely is a capacitor, and you can prove it's a capacitor because there's a conductive and a non-conductive element to it. People have a conductive and non-conductive element to them. A piece of paper has a conductive and non-conductive element to it. A capacitor is what an EMF field needs to sustain itself. EMF can move through solid objects. EMF can, generate light, which can be seen. There's a lot of things that line up perfectly with that. And the more we look
especially
at,
the fact that it affects people. Like,
exactly, because it's a
which
field
can also,
pushing against a field.
Yes, exactly.
So it's like, the more we actually look at this and start attributing science to it, it really makes you wonder, like, all these people talk about, like, well, science doesn't prove that, science doesn't support that. How much did you actually look at? Because the more I look at it, it seems like it works to me.
Right?
Well, it's because the mainstream science just doesn't look at it.
Exactly.
They'll base their things off of stories and just say, well, people were writing stories. That's it. It's simply a story.
Yeah, it's a dismissal.
Yeah, it's easy. That's the thing that is the easiest thing to do, is to dismiss.
Yeah, and it makes me think of, I grew up listening to my dad say, I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none. And I never understood it until I got older. And I realized what it means is you're a master of nothing, because the minute you say you are a master of something, it means you stopped learning and you stopped trying to learn. Being a jack of all trades is where you want to be, because you continue to try to push the bounds of things and learn more and more. And what people are doing when they dismiss all of this is being a master of their trade.
Yeah, that's also very, very true. What was that initial thing that drew you guys together, though? To work together?
This damn workbook.
Yeah. Josh got a hold of my workbook and said, dude, what's going on here? And it was on TikTok. I was making fun of cat balls, and he said, I gotta talk to this guy.
I saw him talking about the Almanac, or the workbook, and I was like, that sounds interesting. I need to have one of these. you know. And I was like, I was just getting back into like really getting down into my paranormal roots again, investigating more and getting back on top of things, you know, because life always kind of gets in the way at some point, and you know, things fall into place later on. So like the last few years, everything keeps falling into place. I find people, you know, that I want to work with that, you know, become integral parts of my life. And Nick was just one of those people. This workbook, I got it. I got it home. I leafed through it and I was like, wow, this is serious. Like, this isn't just some random asshat that's like, I know what I'm doing. You know, here's a book, you know, and with giant text that says, make sure to bring a flashlight, you know, like some of the books you can get out there, you know, where they're like, I made a workbook, you know, I made something you can take with you. I hit him up and I was like, I need to talk to you. Like, I've been doing TikTok lives. I want to interview you about this. And we just, the more and more we talked, it just kept evolving. Like, now Nick's probably my best friend, you know. We talk on a daily basis.
And we're on opposite sides of the coast. Like,
Yeah.
he's in Cali, I'm in South Carolina. So I mean, we literally talk every day. We have like on our phones, we have to correlate times. So we have like that little widget to make sure we know what time the other person is could be awake or not awake.
Yeah.
But I think that's great that you guys have been able to like help each other when it comes down to bounce, just simply bouncing ideas off each other. Because then it's like, oh, you're not the only person who thought about that. You're not. You have a different way to go about it. You know, it helps with growing and learning more. Which I guess would be great for Nick, who wants to gain more knowledge. Like, as he's going forward, it'll lead you to your goal one way or another.
The funny thing is because I mean, Josh co-hosts the Stories in a Cemetery podcast now. So I mean, he's been on there with me damn near a year, and we actually argue and go through this banter about ideas, like, on the show. So it's like some of the stuff is like a surprise. Like, I don't agree with that. And it's like, oh shit, I thought he was going to totally fly with that, and we'll work it out on the show. Like, that's what's so cool about it is, I mean, we walk away with it like, dude, what the hell was that? But at the same time, we're like, dude, what was that? Like, that was pretty damn cool of you. Like, and that's the banter that really works between the two of us of like, you know, I'll crunch the number because, you know, the opportunity that I have, you know, and Josh will have that theory, and I'm like, that could actually be a thing, you know, and we'll go back and forth with it. But and we don't always agree on everything. That's the healthy part of the relationship.
True. I mean, we did an episode on the God helmet, and it was something I threw into the season, and Nick was like, oh, this sounds really cool. By the time we got on there, by the time we got on there, Nick's like, I want one. I want to try it. And I'm like, no, don't. Bad Nick. You know, like, this thing is pumping like magnetic electrical fields into your brain. You know, like, this is not healthy. And he's like, no, but I want one. I want to try it.
It's like, we gotta see how it goes.
And he's like, you're the one that brought this idea up. Well, I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't mean I gotta agree with it.
Still interesting topic.
It is, and it's why we talk about them. Right. So, and it's funny because, like you said, you don't run into people like this that often. I mean, you're run of the muck ghost hunter, you know. And Nick and I think, came up with like a grading system. You know, it's like, it's paranormal enthusiast, then you get ghost hunter, then you get like your paranormal researcher. You know, and most of the people you see on there. And most people you see are paranormal enthusiasts. Right. They watch the show, they got the blinky shit, now they're doing it.
Yeah, that's how, I mean, initially what started for me was the fact that I had my godfather who would just tell me stories. We'd drive past locations, he'd tell me this was haunted. Again, this is the most haunted spot in California. This is this, you know? And I'd be like, why? Why is it the most haunted? And it's always, you know, those like very horror movie-esque like stories that are tied with areas. So, and then as the time went on, it was like, oh, I have the internet now. Top 10 scariest videos, top 10 scariest ghost pictures, ghost caught on camera, whatever. And as the things just went forward, it was just like, okay, oh, wait, I can do investigations? I can actually do these things. And then when it came to doing this show, it's like talking to people like yourselves. And then it's just like everybody has a lot of different ways that they go about things. And it's very interesting to hear just initially how people just go through investigations, their preferred tools, the way they go about conducting their investigation, and also how the way they believe in certain things affects the way they go about it as well.
Yeah.
And it's just the whole world in itself is, the paranormal world in itself is interesting, to say the least.
I mean, it's like any other field. You know, you got your people that are at different extremes, you know, and to all the listeners that are out there like, God, Josh is an asshole. Like, I'm a paranormal enthusiast, you know, we all start off that way. It's about the growth. Like, honestly, it's about the growth. It's about the journey. If you stay a paranormal enthusiast 20 years down the line, that's bad on you. You know, you should grow and continue to challenge yourself. You know, be the jack of all trades.
They said asshole, Josh. They never said wrong, though. They never said you were wrong.
True.
It's true.
Very
true.
True story.
Well, what is going to be going forward for you both, like in your work as things continue to go on?
There's a lot of umbrellas right now for Stories in the Cemetery. So obviously, Josh, I'll go through them because I was just talking about these with April today. So we have the Almanac and Workbook in the SITC scoring system underneath one umbrella. We're doing these watch parties now where we're going to be scoring people's favorite paranormal TV shows. So I would expect to see at least 12 to 15 of those in the next year. Yeah. We have the Stories in a Cemetery podcast is going weekly. We were a bi-weekly show, and we're really deep diving into a lot of like the fathers of the paranormal, some odd experimentation that was going on that's not always discussed, and kind of like more of the sciencey end of the paranormal. We've started a Patreon podcast only with secret societies, so that starts up in January. The tours, I do 2 tours now. So one is interactive with all of my tools, and then I do an Estes method tour where we do the Estes method at every location. So everybody gets a chance to be blindfolded and go underneath the VR. Josh has his, Pasadena, California scavenger hunt. I'm trying to think. I mean, dude, that's a loaded question. I mean, we do a lot of shit.
I sent Nick is currently editing, the possibility of a 3rd book that'll go in with the rest of this, because he's got his SITC scoring system for after investigation. The Almanac is for before investigation. We didn't have a during investigation book, and I've been working on kind of like a paranormal survival guide. So I just sent that to Nick. So that's going to he's going to add a bunch of stuff to it, and it's going to turn into possibly the 3rd book in the series, for during investigations, for like signs and symbols people find during investigations, how to use your equipment, terminology, like just
not bring a flashlight.
Yeah, like just an overall, like, you know, paranormal tips, like do burst sessions, record in 10 to 15 minute intervals to make it easier to go through later. Like just things from, you know, the trade, you know, tricks of the trade. And then we're starting the Paranormal Network.
Oh yeah, the network.
So there's the SITC Paranormal Network because we were looking for like a paranormal network for podcasters, and we're like, they either suck and they don't do shit right, or they're like, you owe us $29.95 a month and you might get some listeners. We're like, this is bullshit. So Nick's like, fuck it, we're gonna start our own. So he created a whole system where it's like, what, $55 a year, and we help promote podcasts, and we help promote paranormal teams, you know,
teach
and
the
then
SITC scoring system. So,
yeah, they get a how-to video, they get the workbook, they get the Almanac every year, like they get all of these benefits from it. And then we also get, you know, people that'll send us back the workbook pages, and then they get their own spots, you know, in the Almanac the following year, where they get their own page where it's like from the team of, you know, and they get like advertisement in the Almanac. So like we're trying to find ways that basically just help everybody help each other, you know, and really start to bring this like whole like para community thing to life in a way that makes a little bit more sense. Because right now, it's like, oh, I'll hashtag you hashtag me. I mean, I got a podcast that did it earlier this week, and he's been spamming me videos all week. Support us, we're support you. I'm like, we're already following each other. What do you want from me?
Yeah.
Like, this is borderline aggressive. Like, you're just spamming the shit out of my message box now. And I didn't ask for that. But it's like this creates a network and like in my mind, I think like a healthy atmosphere.
It's a learning network.
Yeah. I have the term para homies that I say for people,
Nice.
because
that.
homies help homies, and that's what it seems like you guys really want to do, is more of a, everybody kind of is there to help progress in this field, rather than be at a competition and say, no, my way's right, you're wrong, my way's right, you're wrong. Because again, that's an easy thing to do. To dismiss somebody else is an easy thing to do. But when you have a community where you're helping each other, that's a whole different different ballpark. So
yeah. And that's what it should be. I mean, some of the people I'm working with right now, they're brand new to the field. They got less than 6 months doing ghost hunting, and they ask me questions. Hey, how would I set this up? What would the best way to be, filming this? Hey, what do you think of this? Is this pareidolia? Like it's a really cool experience to be able to teach people these things and use the knowledge I've gained over the 12 years I've been doing this to help better another team, and they're doing way better on socials than I am. Does it mean I'm going to be hateful? No, I'm glad they're doing well. Somebody needs to do well. I'm just too much of a dick to do well. Yeah. So somebody needs to get out in front of people, where it's like they take notice, and it's like, yeah, I might not have thousands of followers, but at the end of the day, I know I did what I was doing right, and I know what I'm doing is I'm helping other people and I'm helping them grow and helping them learn properly. It's a great experience, and that's the way it should be. I hate the teams that gatekeep, evidence and gatekeep locations. I've reached out to teams that taken over spaces that are haunted, and they're the official paranormal team. You reach out and you're like, hey, like, I'd love to come through and investigate. Well, that'll be $10,000. It's like, well, hell, go. Thanks. Like, that's a real. It's like, cool. Thanks. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, what you guys do is awesome. And I'll have to be more consistent with sharing some things with you guys. Because again, my way of thinking compared to a lot of other people, way when they go around and do their investigations is different. So it would be nice to get with you guys and to see what your thoughts are on a few things.
Sure.
Yeah, of course.
Because again, it's better to bounce ideas off and really like, and you can be like, listen, Oscar, it's nothing.
Yeah. Well, Nick breaks my heart all the time.
I do.
I got a team from Mexico that just sent me something, like I commented on a video and they were like, hey, well, what do you think? I'm like, well, send me the audio clip and I'll tell you what I hear. Like, I'll clean it up myself and I'll send it back.
I think it would be very interesting for you to have you guys both go into like Zach Bagan's haunted museum. Yeah.
We're doing tomorrow
at the end.
Yeah.
No, we're doing the Warrens.
We're doing the Warrens Museum. First video we're doing. You get to hear it first. So I'm sure by the time you post this, it'll be afterwards. But we're doing Matt Rife and Elton Castell. So Castell with Josh, investigating with Josh, a completely different Josh. They did a first run through Warren's Museum and house and investigated it. Wow. It's a 4-hour video because they did it in 2 parts. The first part was 2 hours and the second part was 4 hours. The first 2 hours, they did no investigating whatsoever. So we're not even going to watch that. We're gonna do the 4-hour second video where they actually are using equipment, and we're going to actually put them through the SITSI scoring system and see how haunted it really was. Because I guarantee at least once in that video, because I have not watched through the whole thing, at least once, I guarantee you they said, this is the most haunted location, or the most haunted night of my life. This is the most activity I've ever experienced.
As soon as I saw that, I think I made a post, and I was like, seeing the news articles, I was like, if you don't see that it's bullshit, I don't know what to tell you at this point.
Yeah, same. And I mean, by all means, like, they are trying to clean it all up. They are not the owners of the museum. They are the curators and overwatchers of the items in the museum. But
Yeah,
they
they're making
are
it very
trying to
clear.
make it available to where paranormal teams can go in and actually investigate. So I commend them for being nice about that. What they're not doing properly is telling the real history of the Warrens and how haunted these items possibly are not.
Possibly are not. Key.
Exactly.
Key to that.
Key.
Yeah. Well, if you guys want to let everybody know where they can find you guys, again, when you said that there was a Patreon show coming as well, so let them know that as well. You know, that way connect more with other people.
Yeah. Everything with Nick right now, everything we're doing is Stories in the Cemetery. So storiesinthecemetery.com can take you to pretty much everything from there. And the Patreon is Stories in the Cemetery, I think /Patreon.
Yeah, it's just you could just go to Patreon and search Stories in a Cemetery.
Yeah, it's a cool system for that. Like, I'm loving the way the Patreon's set up.
Yeah.
Because the podcast everybody gets, no matter what tier you're on, and it's secret societies. But the top
we're
tier,
pretty excited about that.
Yeah, the top tier in the Patreon, which is only $15, like, it's not a lot. They get to be part of the SITSI Secret Society, where they now get to contact us. They get to send us messages. They get to talk to us, ask questions. You know, it's almost like building a little like secret community in Patreon, you know? And every season
Oscar,
we're going to do
you
something
looked confused there about SITSI for a second. SITSI stands for Stories in the Cemetery. SITSI.
No, that's what I. No. I looked because my cat was doing something weird. Sorry.
I'm like,
furball confusion.
Yeah. Because he sat right here by my feet and then just took off and ran somewhere else. So that's why I was like, what are you doing?
It sounds like orange cat behavior.
But yeah, you can find us on all the socials, Stories in the Cemetery. And then for those of you looking for Josh's scavenger hunt, you can go to EamonParanormalResearch.com and you can get your tickets over there. And of course, all of his socials are underneath Eamon Paranormal Research. You know, for all of his, you know, things that he's doing with stories and without stories. Like he's got some things going on as well. So there you go, Josh. We kind of did a cross, like you promoted the story shit and I did your shit. Like that worked out really well. But yeah, just Google Stories in a Cemetery. You will find us. We are on everything. So there you have it.
Well, thank you guys. I really, this was an awesome talk. I haven't got to do this in a while. So it was good to jump in and just dive in and just talk paranormal. This point.
Yeah, talk shop.
It's good to talk to you, man. It's been a few months.
Oh yeah. But everybody listening, watching, wherever you're watching it on, whatever you're listening on, don't forget to ask questions and face your fears. Thanks for joining me, Josh, and Nick on this episode of Induced Fear. Bye.